In this video, I'm going to show you how to install Android Studio on a Windows machine. If you're looking to install it on a Mac, then jump to the next lecture where I'll show you how to install it on OS X. Android Studio is the only bit of software that you'll need for this course. It's completely free and it's made by Google, and it contains everything that you'll need to make Android apps. So I'd thoroughly recommend using it. You can see a basic screenshot of what we're going to be looking at for most of the course, which is our project file structure on the left there, our code on the file that we're working on in the middle, and then some kind of preview on the right. We can also use emulators that are built into Android Studio to run our apps on virtual devices in our computers without having to actually use a real device, which makes life a lot easier. So as I say, it's everything that you need. I'd thoroughly recommend it. Let's just have a quick look at the system requirements. So make sure your computer meets those requirements or you may have some problems. You'll notice that the only bit of software that we need in advance is the Java Development Kit, or JDK version 7, which allows us to work with Java. So we'll be downloading that in a minute. First off though, if you don't want to type in that long URL, just Google Android Studio and then click on the top result, and that will take you to the main page. Have a read if you want to, and then go to download, and then click the big green download Android Studio for Windows button. Then agree to the terms and conditions and then click the blue button. It does take a while to download. It's over 1 gigabyte, so you may need to take a brief break while that downloads. But while we're waiting for that to happen, we can search for the JDK version 7, so JDK 7 in Google, and then that top result is the one that we want. If we scroll down to find the version that we're after, you can see we've got a slight complication here. We've got two versions, Windows x86 and Windows x64. 8.6 is for 32-bit machines and 6.4 is for 64-bit machines, so you need to work out what type of machine you are working on. If you don't know, then just open a Windows Explorer window and right-click on this PC or my computer or something similar to that, and click Properties, and then under System Type it will either say 64-bit or 32-bit operating system. So you can see I'm going to be working with the 64-bit version here. If for any reason you can't find that out and you're not sure, then just go for Windows x86, because the 32-bit version will work on either platform, but the 64-bit version will only work on a 64-bit machine. Alright, so once you've figured out which version you need, click Accept License Agreement up the top, and then click on the appropriate one. So I'm going to be working with Windows x64 here. I've already downloaded both of those, so I'm going to start by installing the JDK version 7. So all of this is fairly straightforward. Just click Yes to allow it to make changes to your machine, and then I'm going to use all the default options here. So just click Next and wait for it to install the JDK. And that's it. Just click Close. No actual runnable software programs have been installed, but the whole environment is now on our machine, which means we can install Android Studio. Now this one does take a while, and it will likely need to download some extra components as well. So be prepared for 5 or 10 minutes for this installation. But as before, we're going to use all the default options. So just click Next. You have to include Android Studio. The Android SDK, we're obviously going to need the software development kit to be able to work with Android. We're going to install Android virtual devices to allow us to use the emulator to emulate a device on our machine. And then there's various performance enhancements if your computer supports it. So I'd go for all the defaults there. Click Next, and then agree to the license agreements, and then choose the install locations. I've actually already got a version installed, so I'm using slightly different defaults, but you should just select the defaults that you're given. And then click Next. Then we need to choose the size of disk space allocated to virtual devices. 2 gigabytes is about right, so I would only choose less than that if you really need to, because you don't have enough space on your computer or something like that. Again, Next, and finally install. Now this one really will take a while, so sit back, while the green bar progresses. And there we go, that's now completed. So click Next and then Finish and select Start Android Studio. You may get an alert like this, which just asks you whether you're going to allow Android Studio through the Windows firewall. I'd definitely recommend yes for private networks. If you're going to be doing this course or developing apps in coffee shops or anything like that, you'll need to select public networks as well, but if not, then leave that blank, just for security reasons. So click Allow Access, and then select the UI theme. It's basically light or dark. I'm going to be using the light theme in the course, so probably select that one so that you're using the same look as I have. Then click Next and it will download the Android SDK build tools and various other bits of software that it needs as well. This might take a little while depending on your internet connection. And there we go. So click Finish, and then you've completed the installation of Android Studio. So you can of course jump the next lecture for the installation instructions for OS X and jump to our overview of the Android Studio interface and start building some apps.